The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Welcome into a brand new season of the Belly Up Fantasy Football Live Show on the Belly Up Sports Network. And every single week from here until the end of fantasy football season, the Belly Up Sports crew is going to bring you all the fantasy football advice that you need. And we're going to sprinkle in a little more than you need just for the fun of it as well. I'm Vince Stover. I'm the host of the Sports Stove Football Show, and I'm going to be with you most weeks, and I'm going to be joined every week by a few experts from the Belly Up Sports world. We'll start off by introducing you to the senior fantasy writer from BellyUpSports.com, the one and only Kevin Wilson. Hey, Kev, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Vince, and I am very, very excited to get this show underway. It's been mothballed too long, and so we are bringing it back, and I am absolutely excited to be a part of it.
Well, hopefully we can get rid of the stench of the mothballs for the fantasy football world.
No worries.
Also joining us this season as a full-time panelist here on the show, he is the co-host of the 3rd and 10 podcast, covering all things New York sports, New York Giants especially, and a lot of other things on his plate as well. But Brian Germinaro joins us. How you doing, Brian?
Pretty good, guys. How are you guys? Thanks for having me on this season. I'm excited to get to work.
Yeah, I tell you what. So basically, my job this year is to set you guys up. Bump, set, spike. I think that's a football term. No, it's not, but that's okay for you guys. And we're gonna have fun with it this year. We've got rankings up already on the BellyUpSports.com website for Dynasty rankings that are up there right now. Our redraft rankings will go up here in the coming weeks as well. And what we're going to do for the first month here of this show through the month of June, we're going to focus mainly on dynasty leagues. And then once we turn the calendar to July, we will go all in on redraft leagues from that point forward. So if you're tuning in to this first episode of the season and you say, I'm not in a dynasty league, well, you can still stick around. There's going to be plenty of fantasy advice, NFL news, those kinds of things as well. But at the very least, make sure you come back in July and check us out then as well. So every single show, we're going to go 4 different segments. Let's start off with segment number 1. We call it the lead block. And for the lead block this week, what we're looking at is dynasty running back studs and duds. Specifically, we're looking for 2 rookie running backs that you think will be a stud in 2025 and 2 rookie running backs that you think will be a dud in 2025. If you're listening, watching live, we're on the Belly Up Fantasy Facebook page and the Belly Up Sports Twitter page to go live each week. Then we'll have the episode available on the Belly Up Sports YouTube channel and the Belly Up Fantasy Football Live podcast, wherever you get your podcasts as well. But if you're listening to us live, go ahead and leave it in the comments. Who do you think? What running back do you think will be a stud? Which running back do you think will be a dud just in 2025? We're not talking about long-term because obviously there's some guys that got drafted I think long-term will have success, but year one as a rookie, they may not have as much success or may not even get that much opportunity sometimes as well. So let's jump into this studs and duds this week. And Brian, let's start off with you with a stud. One running back that you think is going to be a stud in 2025.
So I have RJ Harvey, the running back from Denver. If I had to I've been falling in love with this guy more and more every single time I look into him. If I had to I had RJ at my 9th best prospect, my 5th overall running back. If I had to redraft today, he's probably a lot higher on that list. I love the situation he landed with in Denver. He had Denver, not great rushing room last year, like 112 yards per game. Lost Javonte Williams, Audric Estime, and Jahel McLaughlin are still there, but not much confidence from there. So he should step in right away, be the running back 1. And everyone's comparing him to he's going to be the Alvin Kamara of this offense with Sean Payton. So I think he's going to get a lot of work in the running game, in the passing game, especially if Bo Nix kind of becomes that game manager. They're really going to look to Harvey. So he's going to get a lot of points, especially in PPR leagues.
Brian, I want to ask you, how much confidence does what Bo Nix was able to do for Sean Payton last year give you for RJ Harvey this year? Because the mindset is last year, Bo Nix was his guy. Like, that's the guy. He knew he was going to fit. He knew he was going to work. This year, he could have gotten Omarion Hampton. He could have traded up and done some different things. He chose to hold off, get RJ Harvey. So does that build your confidence with what Nix did last year?
Oh, definitely build like confidence, because it shows that he knows what he's looking for. Like, everyone, we have a vintage history with Bo Nix, but a lot of people were not excited with him. They thought he was a bust, thought he was too old. Sean Payton said, I don't care about any of that. I'm drafting the guy, I think, 12th, and it worked out well for him. So he knows what he wants. He knows how to plug and play guys in his offense, and he is one of the best coaches in the league. So I have total confidence in him.
Great points. All right, Kevin. Yeah, you can comment on Harvey if you want to, and then give us a stud as well.
Okay, so I will real fast because I have him written down as well. And so he has already been pretty much established as their number one running back.
Yeah.
And so that is a big thing. And what really gives me confidence is because he's got Audric Estime.
Estime, yeah.
I probably hose that all up, but
I would say I just know because what's Notre Dame.
Okay.
I know.
And Jaleel McLaughlin are the running backs that Denver had. So that's not a whole lot of competition right there. I do like a lot what Bo Nix brings to this party. And the coach, even though he pretty much hosed over Russell Wilson right here. Okay. But beyond that, he is an excellent coach. And so I really like what this Denver offense can do, what they can bring. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what RJ Harvey can do in Denver.
All right. Awesome. You got another stud for us, Kevin?
I do. And that's going to be Omarion. Did I get that right?
Omarion.
Okay. Hampton.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hampton.
Of the LA Chargers. And he's got the right coach. He's got the right quarterback. He has to just beat out Najee Harris, which I'm not a big believer in. I know he rushed for 1,000 yards last year, but he only averaged 4 yards per carry. So that's not a whole lot to have to beat out. And he scored 15 touchdowns twice in his college career and rushed for 1,504 and 1,660 yards in college. I know that doesn't mean it will translate, but I think that he's got an explosiveness that they're going to like down there in San. I keep trying to say San Diego. I'm sorry.
Well, they should be.
They should be. And I saw the Chargers play in San Diego, so I can vouch for that. And Najee Harris caught 36 passes, not a lot. Well, guess what? Hampton caught 38 his last year in college. So he can do the same things as Harris as far as catching the ball. I think he's going to run it better. So this guy is going to be their number one starter. I'm going to book that right here. And so I really like what he can do. If you're going to have a college, go from college to pros, and you've got a guy like their head coach, he knows how to play. He knows how to play offense. So I think this is a real good fit all the way around. So sign me up for Mr. Hampton right now.
Najee Harris was kind of the sleeper for me early on in this process until they drafted Omarion Hampton, and then I was like, never mind. I'm in on Hampton. I still like Harris. I think there's potential for handcuffing, injuries, whatever. I think Jim Harbaugh's offense, the running's going to work. And I like Harris. I think Harris isn't used up yet either. So, but Omarion Hampton he's elite, and he's going to be a great back for the Chargers this year. Brian, thoughts on Hampton, and then you can give us your second stud as well.
No, I love Hampton too, especially with the offensive line in front of him. They have Joe Alt, which is one of the better young tackles in the league, so that's only going to help him explosiveness. And we've seen, Jim Harbaugh at Michigan, how he ran his running backs. I think we're going to see a very similar situation with Hampton in Los Angeles. So for me, my second stud is Trayvon Henderson of the New England Patriots. I had him as the 5th best prospect on my list, third running back. A couple 1,000-yard seasons in college, 3 double-digit touchdowns a year, and the Patriots are trying to set up Drake May for success. He's the perfect guy to have out there, especially how they're going to use him in the passing games. Send him out wide. He'll be a PPR monster all season long, and he has the explosiveness to jump Ramondre Stevenson on that depth chart. Stevenson's only under contract through 2027, which will hurt his running yards at first, but I think he'll make up for it in the rushing game and then eventually take over as the solidified RB1 bell cow back in New England.
Yeah, Henderson to me is a guy, I've got him number 3 overall on my Dynasty rankings. And what I like about him is everyone raves about his pass blocking, which what it tells me is he's going to be on the field. So you don't have to worry about him. Even if he mixes up some snaps, with Stevenson, he's going to be on the field a whole bunch. He's going to catch the ball out of the backfield. He's going to run the ball super effectively. Vrabel, you go back and watch his time in Tennessee, success running the football. Now I understand Derrick Henry was there, but still, Tennessee wasn't great, but they ran the ball.
Tannehill.
Yeah. So I love that one. Trayvon Henderson is one of my favorites coming into this year. Kevin, your thoughts on Trayvon?
Well, I think that we're pretty much lockstep because I've got him written down here as well. And he's got to beat out Ramondre Stevenson, who I sung the praises of 2 years ago, which I will not do any further. All right. And so anything that you look for in the Patriots aren't as good as offensively as some of these other teams we talked about, but I like what they can do. And I think that Drake May is going to be a much better quarterback this year. And anything that you can beat out Stevenson is not that hard a thing to do. Okay. And so hit the road, okay, and stop harassing other people's fantasy teams. All right, please. And so I'm all in on Mr. Henderson. And so these 3 guys that we have discussed are who I have written down as being my studs. And I didn't go into the guy that was drafted, the rookie, running back that was drafted the highest. So I figured that's low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
So I didn't go into that.
Okay. I was gonna wait till we did duds just to make sure no one put them in there. I didn't figure they would, but we will. Let's go ahead and hit on Ashton Jeanty real quick. I agree. Low hanging fruit in this show. We're going to try to go a little deeper than that oftentimes, but let's make sure we mention it. I think, and I believe you guys would agree, Ashton Jeanty is going to be just fine his rookie season.
Oh yeah. He'll be amazing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I totally believe in that. But like I said, that's not a whole lot of analysis needed there.
Yeah.
So I didn't put a whole lot of time and research in him because if you've got the first overall pick in your rookie drafts, which pretty much they're all done already because they wanted to do them like 8 minutes after the drafts was over. But if you have not done that and you've got the first overall pick, I think he got to be first pick that you take if you've got number 1.
I agree. And we'll talk more in detail on dynasty running backs in the coming weeks as well. Right. But let's get the duds. Kevin, we'll let you start off since Brian stole all your studs.
Okay.
Let's go to the first dud you have for this.
So I'm interested to hear what Brian has to say about my first dud because it's Cam Scattebo.
Oh, wow.
Of the New York Giants. Okay. And the reason why I say that is because I am a big believer in Tyrone Tracy. I like what he did last year, and except for that fumble that he had when he was over there in Europe, okay?
But
beyond that, we're not going to get into that, okay, right? So we're not going to do that. So I think he's got a firm hold on that number 1 running back position in the Giants, and he's going to have to knock him off, which I don't think he'll be able to do. Maybe long-term, if we're talking long-term, that I like his potential a lot. But if we're talking about for this year, then Cam Scattebo is not the guy that I'm looking to have on my fantasy team, especially if I'm going for a championship, because I just don't think he's going to be on the field all that much.
All right. Over to our Giants insider, Brian Germinaro. Thoughts on Cam Scattebo in 2025?
I understand what you're saying. I see it more as it's going to be like a 1A, 1B type of thing with Tracy probably getting like a 55, 60, 40 type split between the two. But no, from that aspect, I do think you're right. The one thing I do want to push back on is I think Scattebo could make it up with his touchdowns because he is more of like the bruising back and in goal line situations. He might be the guy to send out there to kind of, break through the line and go through like that, where Tracy is more of that elusive back type. But other than that, I think you are right. Scattebo could disappoint if Tracy gets those numbers and be as effective I think he is.
Great thoughts from both guys. All right, Brian, give us your first dud of the year.
I have Dylan Sampson, which kind of stinks because I was high on him going into it. I kind of wanted the Giants to draft him in the later rounds, but 24th overall prospect for me, 10th running back. He's just buried on that depth chart. You have Jeremiah Ford there. They drafted Quinshon Judkins, who you would think is going to get majority of the reps, being the second round pick compared to the later round pick. Maybe Sam's going to be out there to kind of be a change of pace back. If Ford and Junkins are getting a lot of touches early, they'll send Sampson's out there. Maybe he gets more explosive towards the end of the season as the Browns coaching staff kind of moves on from Ford and kind of goes to like the 1-2 punch of Sampson Junkins, but that's not going to be till week 13, 14. So I think it would be a really underwhelming season for Sampson. Long term, I like, because I think that 1-2 punch will come, but for this year, I don't like it.
Man, Brian, I am lined up 100% with you. I love Sampson coming into the draft. I was surprised he was dropping. I mean, at one point he was talked about as an upper second round pick, and I mean, he didn't drop crazy far, but still, as we were approaching the draft, they were saying, yeah, it's looking like third round, maybe even fourth round, depending on what happens. And we see him fall a little bit, but I like the situation he's in long term. I agree with you 100%. Eventually, that 1-2 punch is going to be just so much fun. But basically, you're going to be hoping for injuries in order for Sampson to get playing time, or a lot of playing time this year, at least. I think I agree with you, Brian. And that was the one guy I had marked down if he didn't get mentioned to bring up, because I'm right on page with you. Kevin, thoughts on Dylan Sampson?
Well, I'm just going to echo what you guys were saying about him. And if you have a rookie, you don't want to have a guy on your fantasy team who's battling for reps. And that's exactly what's going to be happening here. And if he falls in your draft, maybe so, but I think someone's going to be all giddy about him and take him way earlier than they should. And I've got pretty much hands off on him, at least for this year, and maybe going forward.
Be fun to watch how the Browns figure out, if they can figure out.
But who believes in, has confidence in whatever the Browns are doing in the first place?
Right.
So,
Right.
Nope.
All right, Kevin, give us your second dud.
So my second dud is Caleb Johnson of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the reason why, it's nothing against Caleb Johnson at all, but I don't know, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, what in the world are the Pittsburgh Steelers doing over here? Okay? Don't know who the quarterback's going to be. They bring in, Metcalf from Seattle, but who's throwing him the football? And I know all he has to do is beat out Mr. Warren, who had 511 yards total last year. So he can be number one on that depth chart. But I think the Pittsburgh offense is going to crater big time. And until they get some, I'm not talking about Aaron Rodgers either. They can bring him in, but I don't think it's going to help a whole lot. So as far as the Steelers are concerned, you can have those guys. Okay. If you want them on your fantasy team, you go ahead and do that. I'm not. And I don't know what they're doing. And that's weird because the Pittsburgh Steelers have always been a team that makes decisions. They make the right decisions as far as who they bring in, coaches, all that stuff. But this year, they're in the ditch. And I'm not going to buy anything Pittsburgh.
Okay. Thoughts, Brian?
No, I agree. I thought about Johnson as a dud. The only thing that kept me from doing it was like if the Steelers quarterback situation is still a question mark, maybe they just go really run heavy so he gets a lot of volume. But he's right. The Steelers offense is such a question mark. It's going to crater this year. So you just kind of stay away and just, don't touch anything on that putrid offense.
I will take all the Caleb Johnson stock. I will go ahead and put that on me. I don't think the Steelers are going to be great this year. I think they're going to be, well, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Let's not unload the chamber before we have to, okay?
I like Caleb Johnson this year because of the reps he's going to get. And so he's not number one on my list, but I do like
or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7.
He is number 6 running back for me, behind Harvey, behind Judkins, those guys as well.
Way behind Harvey.
Well, I've only got him 2 spots behind Harvey, but that's just me.
Okay.
That's just me. All right, Brian, your second dud.
Kind of similar to Sampson. I have Bashir Tutton, the Jaguars running back. Is that how you say his name?
Tootin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I 25th rookie on my board, 8th overall running back. Lots of people talking about him, being picked by Liam Cohen, kind of could get looks early. But again, it's the battling for reps. You have ETN, you have Tanks Bigsby, who's shown that they can be, when on the field and healthy, they're dynamic running back. So he's going to have to root for injuries to get on the field and get those touches, even though he is a Liam Cohen guy. Now, in a couple of years when ETN's contract's up, sure, I definitely could see Tune being the guy. But for this year, I see him as a running back 3, maybe becoming an RB2 as we get later on down the line.
Kevin, give me your thoughts on Tootin.
Well, I would certainly like to be much more pleased with this selection because, as we all know, this is we're a cat loving family right here, and so I'm supposed to talk enthusiastically about all things kitties, and so Jaguars are obviously cats, but there've been a bit of huge disappointment, and they're bringing in new coaches and everything else, and that could give them some rise, but we have to see that first. And if I'm going to put in an early draft pick, then going down to Jacksonville is not the place I to go as far as I'm concerned. Because we all want to watch and we all want to love Mr. Lawrence down there, but he has not proven himself. He's had, except for when he went up against San Diego and threw up 48 points in the second half or whatever that was that he did. His career has been a disappointment.
Yeah.
And maybe they can get him turned around. If they can't, that whole offense is going to be tough to watch.
Yeah, I agree. I think buried on the depth chart right now to get things started. ETN, it seems like he's going to stick around in Jacksonville. It doesn't look like he's going to get moved. They came out and said this week, I don't know where all this is coming from. It's well, you drafted 2 running backs, and you got Tank Bigsby. That's where it's all coming from. But Liam Cohen's offense should fit ETN pretty well with him and Bigsby there. I mean, they should be good. So until we see what they're going to do with ETN, I can't jump all over Tootin, especially for this year. People are high on him, though. You're right, Brian. There's a lot of talk about him. A lot of people are in on him. I didn't pay attention to him in college, so I don't, it's one of those things where I'm just going off of other people, smart people, but still, I don't know. It scares me a little bit, especially for 2025. The only other name I'll bring up is Jayden Blue. I think Dallas, the run game as a whole, is going to be a little shaky this year. And even though I think he's got potential, he would not be one of my top options off the board because I think there's going to be, especially if Dak Prescott can't stay healthy. Although they got Milton now, that's a fun thing to throw in too. But that's a whole nother conversation, whole nother day. We'll get there when we preview the Cowboys and the division as well. All right,
the only thing I'll throw in there is he could be the number 1 running back for the Cowboys, which
could be
lifts him up a little bit.
Agreed,
but not a lot.
But I think this is more about the Cowboys running back room than him
as
a prospect himself.
You got that right.
Yeah.
Well put. All right, that's the lead block. Let's head into segment number 2. It's our cover 2. Each week in our second segment, we're going to focus in on NFL news, things going on around the NFL world. And of course, it's our first show of the season, so we've got a few things to cover that could go a little ways back, but we'll try to keep it relevant all at the same time. I want to start with Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati. The Bengals, they got this offensive powerhouse. Joe Burrow is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He's got 2 of the best receivers in the league. The offensive line is improved. Running game is fine. Then you go to the defensive side. It's not good except for Trey Hendrickson. And now they're like, well, we don't want to give you as much money as you deserve, which is normal for Cincinnati, of course, as well. My question is, do you guys think that this is going to get resolved in a way where Trey Hendrickson is playing from week 1 in Cincinnati this season? Brian, we'll start with you.
I mean, if you're the Bengals, you have to get this done. Henderson is the best player on that defense. Without him, who's there? They didn't really make any meaningful upgrades this offseason. They brought in some interesting guys in the draft, but no one I'm Like, oh, that's the game changer. That's the guy that can replace Hendrickson. There's no one there, so they have to go get the 17.5 sack guy. They have to go pay him whatever you want. I was confused by the Bengals. I don't know why they gave T. Higgins that big contract. Like, T. Higgins is a great wide receiver, don't get me wrong, but you have Jamar Chase already. You can kind of downgrade and put that money to your defense, which is the reason you didn't make the playoffs last year. Like, Joe Burrow is a good enough quarterback to elevate any wide receiver around him. So they have to get Hendrickson on that field no matter what it takes.
And listen, I love T. Higgins, but I would have kept Boyd. He was cheaper.
Yeah.
And I would have let Higgins go. I would have traded Higgins. You would have gotten something for him. I would have traded Higgins. I like the fact they got this dynamic trio. I think that's neat. I think it's cool. I think they're all happy, whatever. But you've got to secure the other side of the field. And, of course, they drafted a guy that didn't have any sacks or very few sacks in college, and he still hasn't signed either. So
does he have a contract dispute too? He's like disputing with them too, like a holdout
yes.
comment.
Yeah, he doesn't like the coverages that they give to rookies. Anyways, yeah, I don't know. Kevin, thoughts on Trey Hendrickson? Will the Bengals get it done before the start of the season?
Well, this is a conversation that we have had on our Seahawks Sessions show, talking about that the Seahawks should make an offer. Any team should make an offer.
Yes.
Let me just throw that out there. But the Bengals need to, they need to get something done over here, because there are only 2 players in the NFL that have more sacks than him. Okay? And so he also had 6 passes defense somehow, even though he was rushing the quarterback. He had 6 passes defense and 2 forced fumbles. And your defense, you have all this, and your defense is giving up 30 points a game.
Right.
That's bad. All right.
Yeah.
And they need to get this. I think it's going to get uglier before, if there's any resolution that comes in this case. And if you're the Bengals, let's say you do make a trade, you're not going to get draft picks.
Right.
Your team, 2025 is now in the ditch, because who else are you going to put out there? No one's going to give you 17, maybe 6 sacks, if that.
Right.
Okay. And the Bengals need to get this done. I don't know how they do that, because they don't have a whole lot of money to work with. And it's hard for me to imagine a guy that's going to let $15 million sit on the table. But he seems more than that, he's going to do that, because he sees a greener path, and he's 30 years old. So he's got to get this done now.
You're right.
And so this needs to be resolved. And I think it's going to get ugly before we see any green.
I think you said the right words, Kevin, when you said, I don't see how the Bengals do that. Yeah, that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to do it. And once they do it, it'll just be what we expect from Cincinnati. Sorry, that childish. Anytime I hear those 2 words.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it. Dude, who's funny?
Doo-doo.
All right. Let's stay in the division. Let's talk about the Steelers. We brought it up when we were talking about Caleb Johnson. Right now, Mason Rudolph is QB1 in Pittsburgh.
Come on.
I saw, I don't remember who it was that said it today, or someone said it on social media, and I'm sure other people have said it too. Like, why not let Mason Rudolph to have the reins? And if it doesn't work, which you don't expect it would, you get an early draft pick next year, and you get your quarterback of the future. Let's do it this way. Would you rather, we're going to do this in the next segment for the other players, but would you rather, if you were a Steelers fan, which none of us are Steelers fans.
No, absolutely not.
Steelers fan, would you rather Aaron Rodgers or Mason Rudolph as your quarterback, Kevin?
I think that when you talk about Aaron Rodgers, okay, Terry Bradshaw had probably the greatest quote I think I have ever seen. And he said that Aaron Rodgers just needs to stay in California and chew on his bark.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so funny. And why are they pursuing this guy? That makes no sense to me. It never did. He's finished. So I would rather not even discuss Aaron Rodgers. But Mason Rudolph is not the answer even a little bit.
Well, I know
because
that.
Why? 9 touchdowns, 9 interceptions.
Yeah.
That's like we talked on our baseball show. If you're, if it's 1-to-1 ratio, that's bad. Okay, but then all they have is a rookie, Will Howard, behind him. And that's not the answer this year.
Yeah. Well, I want to come back to Will Howard. I do want to come
Okay.
back to that conversation. But before we do that, Brian, give me your thought between Rodgers and Rudolph. Like, if you were a fan, how would you feel about this?
I mean, if that's our only two options, I am very scared as a Steelers fan. But I think I would have to lean Rudolph just because he doesn't come with the drama that Aaron Rodgers has. You know, Rudolph is going on with Pat McAfee every single week and going to say something stupid or something bad about the organization that throws into a media firestorm. He's, you know, we know what he is. And like you said, he's not good enough to he's not good enough. So we can get a high draft pick next year and potentially take a quarterback in what looks like a quarterback-rich draft. You know, we have Arch Manning, Drew Allard, Nussmeier might be coming out. Like, there's some good quarterbacks at the top of this draft next year.
Yeah, and I'm as a Packer fan, I'm thankful for the Rodgers years. It was a good 20 years. You know, good 30 years between him and Favre. I'm not complaining about that, but the one thing Rudolph gives you that Rodgers does not is buy-in. And Rudolph will buy into the system. He'll do what he's told. Rodgers, for his last at least 6 years in Green Bay, was doing whatever he wanted. And what we saw is when he left, LaFleur was allowed to actually call plays, and we saw the Packers offense look fine and look better last year because he's able to call plays, and that's what he's good at. Well, Rodgers was, you know, they're trying to work together and make things work and, you know, all these kinds of things. It wasn't good. And Rodgers isn't the same talent that he was, you know, back then either. He was able to have MVP seasons because he was so talented. Now he's banged up, he's old, all that kind of stuff. And he's got so much
53 now or something like that.
No. But the off the field stuff, you'll never convince me that it's not important. And in your mind, you know, you can say I'm focused on football. There's so much going on off the field. You get all these, you know, ex-girlfriends that are talking about how horrible things were. That's coming out now. And you've seen him not be able to handle that. You know, look at the view. He looks like he's
Did we lose him?
Did we lose Vince?
I think we lost Vince.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
No. Okay, so he's not running the ball back for us anymore? Is that what's going on right here?
I guess it's just us.
Okay. Well, then, the last conversation, I believe, that was in this area was we're going to talk about Stefan Diggs.
Yes.
And so I think that both of us would probably talk about just about anything other than Stefan Diggs. But what do you make out
of those two choices?
Oh, he's back. Oh, now he's just gone.
Now he's really gone. Okay.
Oh.
Am I back?
Well,
yes, you're back.
You are back. So we were just about to dive into Stefan Diggs.
All right, let's do it. Stefan Diggs, Patriots culture. That's the way I worded it in our pre-show notes. The Stefan culture versus the Patriots culture. Because Vrabel, let's face it, Patriots culture. Yeah, I don't know where we want to go with the Stefan Diggs conversation. So let me just tee it up for you guys. There you go, Stefan Diggs. Go, Brian.
As a Giants fan, wide receivers on boats triggers bad memories. So I just want to say that. But I don't know. I'm kind of torn with this because, like, yes, it's important. He should be there learning the system and stuff. But at the same time, it's OTAs. It's voluntary. Does it really, you know, how much is it? You know, how many players have we seen sit out OTAs, whether it be for a contract dispute, and get on the field and play fine? So I think it's not a great look, but, like, I think we're also making a mountain out of a molehill here a little bit.
Kevin?
I think that this, when you know, stepping out of OTAs is one thing. But while your team is going through this and you're posting videos on boats, this is not the guy that's dedicated to his craft, obviously, to me. And the Patriots are trying to get back to where they were back in the, you know, when they were always competitive, and they've got a lot of young players. This is not the influence that you need. And obviously he is not concerned about making, because he's got to pass a physical by the New England doctor. And that's the key here. It's not some doctor that he found, in the back of the book somewhere. It has to be the Patriots doctor that clears him. If they don't do that, he gets nada. And he's not showing any concern about himself, any concern about the team. I think this is a huge issue. And I'm thinking right now that the Patriots would rather just their doctor say, well, he's not healthy.
Yeah.
And then cut him and we'll move forward. You don't need this kind of guy in your locker room.
Let me split the middle on this one. And this is what I love about having you guys on, because we get two different kind of age gaps here. I'm closer to Kevin's age gap than I am Brian's. But I think it's an issue from the sense that they need him to be professional. They need him to be an example. They need him to come in and teach young guys how to be pros. Even though Vrabel can do that, his staff can do that. You'll see it on any team. Devontae Adams comes into the Rams, and Puka Nacua is a great receiver. He's like, man, you could see the impact immediately. Like, that's what you want out of Stefan Diggs. And is it the big scheme? Is it a huge issue? No, he's a veteran. Does he need to be there? No, he doesn't. For him personally, but you would like to see that commitment from a guy who, coming off an injury, hasn't had the best of years the last couple of years. You'd like to see him burn a little bit with this fire in him that says, hey, I'm going to prove everybody that I'm back, that kind of stuff. And when you're passing out, allegedly, drugs to ladies on a boat, it's not, you're not during OTAs, you're not seeing that commitment there that you'd like to see. And I'm sure they had the conversation, and we'll see how he's a talented guy. And, again, he doesn't need it for himself, but I think the team needs it for him to be there. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm intrigued to see how Vrabel handles this culture coming in now. And by the way, I didn't think they should have switched coaches, but I understood why they did. I love Jared Mayo. I thought if you given him a legit chance, he would succeed. But I understand not passing on Vrabel at the same time. So I'm intrigued to see, though, what he does, how he carries the culture back there in New England as well. Let's talk real quick Lions. Frank Ragnow says he's retiring. Me and my dad on the Sports Stove Football Show have discussed the Lions often. They lose Ben Johnson as the offensive coordinator. They lose Aaron Glenn as the defensive coordinator. Now they're losing a stalwart on the line, an important figure in the locker room. Well, I think Dan Campbell can hold the culture in Detroit. The question is what happens if they lose 3 straight? Can he hold the locker room then? And that's kind of where I sit. Now you're losing a guy that can be influential in the locker room as well as key pieces on your staff. Again, I'm a Packers fan. I try really hard not to be biased on these kinds of things, but I'm sitting here going, man, to me, I feel like the Lions are setting themselves up for a rough year. I still think they'll be good. I think they're still a 9-10 win team possibly. But I think we're going to see some dip. And when you lose not only your staff, now you're losing guys like Frank Ragnow. I think you're going, oh, man, if I was a Lions fan, I don't know how confident I'd be coming into this year. Brian, what are your thoughts on Detroit?
No, I would definitely be scared if I'm a Lions fan. Like Frank Ragnow, Dan Campbell's type of, culture works when you have guys that buy in. Frank Ragnall's the guy that buy in. I think he played with a broken neck a few years ago. Like that's a Dan Campbell guy if I've ever heard one in my life. Screw the body, go out there and play football.
Yeah.
But when you start losing that, and then there's going to be growing pains for this Lions team. We've seen it so many times when coordinators leave. You take a step back. It takes a moment to learn that new offense. No matter how similar the new guy's offense might be to Johnson's, there's difference. There's different cadence, there's different way of calling it, different scheme, different strategy, all different. So I think it's going to be growing pains. And if, more guys like this start kind of falling out and that message kind of falls on deaf ears, things could fall apart quickly in Detroit.
Kevin, your thoughts?
Well, if he was going to take a retirement, he would kind of prefer that he do that 2 months ago.
Before the draft. Yeah.
Right. Because now all these players are signed. And this is not a guy that I would argue that the center is probably the most important guy to have on your offensive line. He's the guy that hikes the ball. He's the one that makes sure everything is cadenced correctly. And he's not a guy that just wandered in from camp. He's a 7-year veteran. He's an all-pro. And injuries didn't help. But like if he's got a problem with his neck and still playing football, that's the kind of guy you want on your football team, which they don't have now. And so I think that's a big loss for them. The coordinators are a big loss, but I would argue that Minnesota, we don't know for sure what they're going to be. They got a quarterback that's never taken a snap in his NFL career. So we don't know what they're about. Is Jordan Love, is he going to be improving himself? What are we going to get out of the Bears? So this was a division of absolute heavyweights a year ago, and it may not be that way this year. And so they could take a step back and probably be okay.
I'm wondering if the Lions did know. Second round, they take Georgia. Inside offensive lineman, Tate Ratledge. Right now, he's slotted as the starting center. I'm curious. Maybe they didn't know he was going to retire, but maybe they knew his time was short, that, this was going to be maybe his last year, or they knew he was having some health issues and that, they might need someone that can fill in and things like that. I don't know that for sure, but if you're going to spend a second round pick on a guy that can play center, maybe they were aware, we just were not. I don't know. So maybe they're prepared for it, but I try to give the benefit of the doubt to the people who get paid millions of dollars to make decisions over assuming I know better than them. But let's face it, this is a tough loss. And it's not just that. If it was just Frank Ragnow, that's one thing, but you added on to everything else they went through this offseason. It's going to be an interesting change in Detroit this year, and intriguing to see how that division breaks down. All right, we spent more time on these first two segments than I wanted to, but I am so excited about segment 3. Let's get into the read options. Each and every week, we're going to do the read option. We're going to give our two experts a choice between this player and that player, and they get to decide which one is the better one for your fantasy team to have. And since we're talking about dynasty players right now, we're going to look at 3 sets of receivers. And what we're going to do, I'm going to give Brian and Kevin a chance to comment on this guy or that guy. And then if they choose the opposites, then I'll break the tie. If they choose the same guy and they're wrong, then I'll correct them.
Okay.
So I am telling you, I am so excited about this segment. It's really weird how excited I am about this segment. All right, let's get things started. Dynasty wide receivers is what we're looking at today. Guys on the same team. And so, Kevin, we'll start with you. And we'll start with, I think, a relatively easy one, but we'll see how it goes on this one. Chicago Bears receivers, this one or that one, Rome Odunze or Luther Burden III for Dynasty.
So in Dynasty, these guys kind of cancel each other out because they're both youngsters. And so that does not help your decision here. And I don't think. And the disappointment to me about Odunze is he only had 3 touchdown catches. And if you've got Williams as your quarterback, that's not going to get it done. And so I'm going to go over to the other side and go with Mr. Burton because I think he's going to be a guy that's going to slot right in, and I like what he can bring. And they need a shot in the arm. The whole entire Chicago Bears team does, and I think he can bring it. So I'm going to go with Mr. Burton as my pick in this battle.
All right, Brian, your thoughts?
I agree with Kevin. I'm going with Burden too, for the fact that this is a guy that Ben Johnson picked himself. He's a guy that thinks he can fit his offense. No offense with Doomsday, but we saw him last year, and he just never felt like he could develop a chemistry with Caleb Williams. I think Burden's going to get the benefit of the doubt. He's going to be kind of the coaching staff's favorite because he's the one they pick rather than Doomsday's kind of like an arranged marriage in a way. So give me Burden for, having that benefit of the doubt and being able to not have that bad rookie season to kind of cloud your mind.
All right. I thought you guys were going to go the other direction on this one. And I think I would go the other direction on this one, but I don't know that I would be staunch that I'm correct on this. I think year 2 obviously helps. How Ben Johnson uses Luther Burden will be everything. And if he's the Amon-Ra St. Brown of this offense, it's going to be a phenomenal year and career for Luther Burden. It all depends on how he uses them. And Ben Johnson, I think Ben Johnson's the shot in the arm that Chicago needed. And I honestly think both of these guys are going to have way more success as a result of Ben Johnson being there than if he wasn't there. So I like both of these guys at the end of the day. So I won't argue with you on Luther Burden the third. All right. Second pairing. I'm excited because this is guys we have no idea about, never seen them in the NFL yet. And it's college teammates, now professional teammates, Jayden Higgins and Jayden Noel down at the Houston Texans. And you remember they've got Nico Collins down there as well. They got some other offensive weapons down there too. But just choosing between these two guys, Jayden Higgins, Jayden Noel, Brian, who do you take?
I mean, this was a tough one for me. It's a toss-up, but I think I would go Higgins. So, the fact was he had more yards per I don't know how to describe for receivers, but like his catch was more yards than Noel. I think that's going to go for him. He's going to get down the field, get more of a repertoire with CJ Stroud faster. So give you Higgins over Noel. Although I really think it's as close to 50-50 as you can get.
Kevin?
Okay, so I was initially thinking that I was going to go Higgins' way as well. But the thing that kind of tips this over a little bit is because Noel, he's also can be used on the special teams. And let's see, he has a 15.3 yard per punt average return. So he's got that. And it wasn't a whole lot of difference because Higgins is 15.5, Noel is 14.9. So there's not a whole lot of difference right there. So if you're on a fantasy team that includes defense and the kicking game and all that is one, and it should, then he's going to go in there and give you some return yards. I like that. So I'm going with Noel here.
All right. I'll break the tie. I think this is a tough one. I'm going to go Higgins because I think that he's going to get more touchdowns at the end of the day. And so when you look at red zone and Higgins, they don't have anybody like Higgins on their team. I wouldn't say they have anybody exactly like Noel, but it's a little bit more of a common skill set, I guess. And Higgins is just so big. He goes up and gets the ball. And this doesn't help you in fantasy football a whole lot, but Higgins draws pass interferences like nothing else. So he's going to get them in good position to score points. And once you get in the red zone, you can throw it up to Higgins. He can go up and get it as well. And I will admit, I'm incredibly biased with Jayden Higgins because he's been on my show before. So I'm a huge Jayden Higgins supporter. But putting that aside, I do think he scores more touchdowns, especially early in his career. Nico's so good as well. I really like what Houston did these last couple of years in the draft. So that's going to be a fun one to watch for sure. All right, last one is I'm really intrigued to get your thoughts on this one. Go down to Jacksonville. We've talked about Trevor Lawrence a little earlier in the show. We'll talk about him when we get the quarterbacks down the road and especially in redraft leagues and stuff like that. But Brian Thompson, who had a great rookie year last year, and then Travis Hunter. And I will tell you, I've enjoyed watching these videos from the OTAs, watching them run the routes together, competing against each other and things has been really, really cool. Super talented guys. Kevin, we'll start with you. The sophomore in Brian Thomas or the freshman rookie in Travis Hunter?
So I'm going to go with the sophomore because he has not much, but he has a track record. He was targeted 133 times last year. And Travis Hunter is going to eat into that, but he's not going to take up 133 targets from him. Yeah. And when you look at this, he caught 87, 1,282 yards, 10 touchdowns, 14.7 yards per catch. And he's only 22 years old. So that's the kicker right there. I know that they're planning on using Hunter on both offense and defense. I think that is they're just throwing dust up in the air and hoping that it's going to turn into the fairy dust, I guess. I don't see that happening all season long. He's going to get beat up if that's what they're going to. I just don't see that happening all year. So if I've got a guy who's 22 years old that has that kind of track record, even though it's only 1 year is enough to at least put out some kind of trends. So I'm going with the sophomore here all the way.
All right, Brian.
No, I agree with Kevin again. I'm going with the sophomore too. And it's solely for the reason was we have a track record with Thomas having the 1,000-yard season, all the receptions. And with the thing that scares me Travis Hunter is that two-way. Like, what if, he does struggle on offense, but he's really good on defense? We hear Liam Cohen talking about all those fantastic plays on defense. If he's struggling in one area, they might just cut the cord early. And then all of a sudden you're sitting here with a cornerback. Like, what's that going to do for you in fantasy? So I'd rather take the sure thing in Thomas. No, I'm going to get 17 games out of him at wide receiver and probably get close to 1,000 yards again than a question mark in Travis Hunter, who we don't know how he's going to turn to the NFL and if he's going to be a wide receiver for a whole 17-game season.
And how many defenders are excited about hitting Travis Hunter? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's going to be those guys that are going to be like, we're going to knock him around a little bit. It could be a rough rookie year, at least physically for him, which could weigh on him. And I will say I agree with you guys 100%. I will say this. The class that I had the worst grade in high school was chemistry. But the one thing that Thomas has with his quarterback that Hunter does not have is chemistry. And that's going to continue to play. I think you see it just like you see it with Burrow and Chase. Even though T. Higgins is good, there's a special connection between Burrow and Chase. I think the same is true with Lawrence and Thomas this year as well. You're going to continue to see that grow from them. So that's awesome. I love it, guys. Great job. The read option is, I think, a success in round number 1. We'll come back to it next week. All right, let's get into our final segment. We call it the Red Zone. All right, the red zone means we're getting close to the end, right? We're right there at the end of the program. We're wrapping things up, and today we're looking at Dynasty quarterback rankings. And I was looking through your guys' rankings and my rankings with quarterbacks, Dynasty quarterbacks, and there's similarities for sure. I'm intrigued by a few things that kind of get flipped around. Me and Brian were actually a little bit more similar than me and Kevin were in some ways, but we all broke them up into tiers. So let's start with tier 1. If you've changed it, feel free to let me know. But let's see here. Those are mine. We don't need mine. Brian's tier 1, Josh Allen, Jayden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and Patrick Mahomes. And then Kevin's tier 1 was Jayden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Lamar Jackson. So pretty similar. And the guys that aren't in tier 1 are in tier 2 for each guy. But let's talk about kind of tier 1. What sets apart the tier 1 guys from the tier 2 guys? Kevin, we'll start with you.
Okay, so one guy especially sets himself apart because he's only entering his second year.
Yeah.
And of course, that's Jayden Daniels. And this guy was phenomenal last year. And I like what the offensive team that he has around him. I like the coach that he has around him. And I just saw a report that's talking about that he's bulking up this year because he's a little slight of frame.
Yeah.
Okay. And he's not Russell Wilson yet as far as avoiding the rush. And so if he improves in that, he is clearly heads and over, in Dynasty. He's the number 1 quarterback in my mind because he's young. He's on a great team. He's got everything going for him. And some of these other guys are all great quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But they're older than him. And so to me, Mr. Daniels is, if I'm going to take a quarterback early, it's going to be Jayden Daniels.
I can't argue with you about that. In our articles, me and Brian both have Josh Allen as 1, Jayden Daniels as 2. Brian, how much longer is Josh Allen 1 when it comes to drafting in Dynasty over Jayden Daniels?
Maybe 1 more season, if we're being honest. I definitely thought about putting Daniels 1. The one thing that held me back was the dreaded sophomore slump that can occur. It kind of came out. We didn't expect this from Jayden Daniels. We thought it'd be good, but not this good. Right. We didn't think the Commanders would be a playoff team to go all the way to the conference championship game. We could definitely see some regression. I think they have a harder schedule than they did last year. We could see some regression. Those numbers could go down, and then it's on how's Jayden Daniels going to respond to that. We don't know. So that's why I was hesitant to put him ahead of Allen. But if it's another solid season and with that young age, he'll be quarterback number 1 next year.
My big thing that I always push is expectation. Jayden Daniels came in, there were expectations for him, but he far exceeded them. Now you turn the page, and now it's like everyone has the expectation now. Can you live up to that? It's not just him. They bring in Deebo Samuels. They bring in Laramie Tunsil to block for him. They make some good draft choices. I love Scary Terry. He's one of my favorite receivers in the league. And I sit there and I watch these guys and I go, okay, and I like the coaching staff. I think they're set up to succeed, but they've got something this year they didn't have last year. That's high expectations. Now, I'm sure internally they had high expectations, but when it comes from the outside, it's a different kind of pressure. And that division, the Eagles are obviously great. The Cowboys, you never know.
Let's not go there. Yeah.
The Giants, you never know. Do they get better this year? All that kind of stuff too. Those expectations is what scares me a little bit about Jayden Daniels. I anticipate, as you guys do too, I had him number 2, so it's not like I dropped him way down the rankings or anything. I like Josh Allen a little bit better still as number 1 in Dynasty because he still gives you so much on the ground. And the Bills, we know what they are. We know what they're going to be. If they don't have great weapons, Josh Allen still succeeds. And if they do have great weapons, which I don't think they do, he'll succeed then too. So it's just a matter of at this point, it's that track record. I still believe in Allen more than I do. I have more confidence, I guess, in a successful next couple seasons for Allen, more so than I do for Jayden Daniels, just until I feel like Daniels gets his legs underneath him now with the expectations. That being said, the other guys on the list, I mean, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, those guys are all, they're elite in what they do. And I'm a little lower on Patrick Mahomes, not much lower. I have him in tier 2, but I sit there and watch. I don't know. Mahomes scares me for whatever reason. Mahomes scares me, especially in Dynasty. I just feel like there's going to come a day where Andy Reid's going to retire and Mahomes has so much outside noise also. And it just seems like he's getting beat up every season. And at some point, something's just not going to go right as it's gone pretty much right for them for a while now. So that's what scares me with him. But outside of that, I think, all these guys talk a little bit. Let's go, Brian. Talk a little bit about the rushers versus the non-rushers. You've got Burrow as number 4 on your list. Mahomes is number 5. You've got Jackson, Daniels, and Allen above them that are rushers. You got Hurts right below them. I think me and Kevin both have Hurts higher. How do you judge, especially in Dynasty, how do you judge the running ability? Let's compare Jalen Hurts to Joe Burrow since you have Burrow above him.
Yeah. The main thing for me is I think Joe Burrow, like I said, is a clear-cut, probably the best pocket passer in the league right now. He's got great weapons around him. Jalen Hurts, a lot of his points come from touchdowns, come from that tush push, which, we don't know how long it's going to be in the league for. It's in the league this year. I wanted to stay in the league, but, with all the votes and stuff, which I thought could potentially hurt his numbers. It's tough when you do that because I think Burrow does a lot more, but I just fear with the physicality, especially with, Hurts in those short situations, he's going to get hurt. And when he gets hurt, it messes up his entire thing. And we saw it in the past, Eagles quarterbacks like Carson Wentz, they get hit that wrong way and the whole career goes off the rails. So that's why I was a little more hesitant with Hurts. I think it's just more of a physical style runner that might not age well and injury wise.
Yeah, I can agree with that for sure. Kevin, talk to me a little bit about your thoughts on, you got Hurts. Let's see here. I've
got a number 2
on your list. Yeah. So you got him above Burrow. How do you weigh those things?
Because I think that rushing ability is a huge factor, especially we're talking about, in Dynasty.
Yeah.
If we're talking about redraft, then Burrow's way out in front. I'm taking him before any of these other guys.
Yeah.
Because he's throwing for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns because he has to. But when we add it all in together, the Dynasty, Hurts, and I'm not as concerned about him being hurt as much as because they've got guys surrounding him literally all the way around him. And so the defense isn't laying a glove on, especially on the, they could I don't think they're going to ban the tush push.
No.
I hope not.
I hope so too. Defend it. And,
exactly. Yeah. Come up with something to stop it.
right. And so I think that's going to put Hurts up there because he's going to get his touchdowns. He's going to, and I like, and we talked about Josh Allen, his offense isn't as good. Well, the Eagles is about as good as it gets because of Barkley. They've got the wide receivers. They always know how to put an offensive line out there. And because of all that, I put Hurts way higher than I anticipated when I started these rankings. But because of the team he's on, I think that I couldn't argue. I was trying to argue with myself to not put him at number 2, but I just failed. And I said, okay, self, put him at number 2. And there he is.
All right. Tier 2 is pretty much the same players. Justin Herbert's there, Bo Nix, CJ Stroud, Caleb Williams. You guys have all of them in tier number 2. So I want to jump down to tier number 3 because the guys that we've got going on here, I think you got pretty much the same guys there too. Drake May, Kyler Murray, Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield is all here and Brock Purdy are both here in your guys's, all the guys that you have similar in that tier number 3. Now, I know not everybody listens to this show is a Packer fan. I am. I believe in Love. I've got him as a top 10 fantasy quarterback. I think the weapons that they have for him are incredible, but I am biased and I won't lie about that. So talk to me about Jordan Love. Thoughts on him? You got him, tier 3. You guys got him around. I think Kevin's got him at 11, and I think you've got him at 11 or 12, Brian, if I remember right.
Yeah, I'm at 12.
Okay. So Kevin, Jordan Love, you can kind of run through those guys real quick. Drake May, Jordan Love. Let's do Drake May and Jordan Love right now. Kind of thoughts on them coming in now as dynasty quarterbacks.
Well, as far as dynasty goes, I think that you've got to give the tie to Drake May simply because it's his second year.
Age, yeah.
At age. And because Jordan Love sat on my taxi squad for 3 years. And I was glad to do it because then he justified me, drafting him and keeping him on my taxi squad as long as he did because he bursted out. Well, he took a little bit of step back last year. And I'm not really that concerned about it. I think that you mentioned their offense is going to be good. But as far as longevity is concerned, I think that they're going to come in there and straighten out a lot of the problems that New England was having. So just based because it's his second year and he's got youth on his side, I really like Jordan Love. I have to because I believed in him and it was rewarded.
Yeah.
And so I like him a lot. But as far as dynasty, if we're talking redraft, then Drake May is in the back of the bus. But since it's dynasty, he moves up to the front to me.
Brian?
Yeah, no, same thing for me with Drake May over Love. It was an age thing. It was that second year in the league. I think the Patriots offense got so much better. The addition of Stefan Diggs, the running game's going to get better. Like we said earlier, Henderson's going to be big PPR guy with screen passes and stuff. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think the Patriots are going to be really good with Drake May. We saw the flashes last year. That was the only thing. Jordan Love is still a good quarterback, in my opinion. I would be happy if he was my dynasty quarterback. But the injury last year, the longevity, I'd much rather go with May.
Talk to me about a veteran guy. Let's go Sam Darnold. A little further down in the rankings, but I know he's on Seattle. Kevin, you're a Seattle guy. So before we go to you, we're going to go to Brian first with Sam Darnold because I preach to Vikings fans. You want to resign Sam Darnold. He just won you 14 games, and that doesn't happen every year in Minnesota. What are you thinking? They all said, we're done with this goofball. He stinks in the playoffs. I'm like, you made the playoffs. He goes to Seattle. They have a pretty big shift this offseason, too. Two of the great receivers that have been there for a while are gone. They have a young, talented receiver in Smith and Jigba. How do you feel about Sam Darnold? Not only this year, but he's got a 3-year contract, there, or maybe 2 of that's guaranteed, I think, in Seattle. What are your thoughts on Sam Darnold, Brian?
I'm worried about Sam Darnold. I wouldn't really want him on my team. He came out of nowhere last year, I think is the easiest way to say. He was on a really good Vikings team with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson came back towards the middle of the year. A quarterback whisperer in Kevin O'Connell. Now he goes to Seattle, which, yes, I like Jack Smith and Jigba. Cooper Kupp is still there, kind of the back end. I like what they did in the draft, but that's not the same offense and not the same offensive guru like an O'Connell. And when you have the Seahawks drafted Jalen Milroe, who, yes, is raw and needs time to develop, but I think he's going to very quickly become that guy, especially from everything we've seen from the videos and camp and stuff. So I'm concerned about Sam Darnold and if he can repeat the season he had last year.
All right, Kevin.
Well, this is another subject that we have discussed in nauseum on the Seahawks Sessions show. And before all of that began, I was like, I was in Smith's corner, even though he threw 700 interceptions when they were down there in the red zone, which didn't help. And then they traded him, and they traded DK Metcalf. And I'm like, this is a 10-win team. Are we trying to say we're going to retool this thing? But they turned right around. They brought in Sam Darnold. If it wasn't for those 2 last games, he would have got a lot more money. And so that helped him. I think that just the first year is guaranteed to him. And so if he goes in there and stinks up the joint and Mr. Milroe shows any kind of Russell Wilson-esque kind of progress, then he could be out on his rear end. So that's why I have him ranked. I've got the rookie quarterback in Dynasty ranked over Darnold.
Yeah.
So, but I like what they did. I like that they brought in Cooper Kupp. I think that was a great pickup for them. He's going to go down there and play, the Rams and just say, hey, you cut me, so I'm going to catch 10 passes against you, and here you are.
Yeah.
And then they went out, and their biggest thing, I was on draft day live when I was like, Seattle, don't mess up this pick. And they didn't. And they took the offensive lineman that I wanted them to take. And so they're going to improve that offensive line. They take a tight end that knows how to catch the football. Yep. He can't block worth a darn, but he can catch the football.
Yeah.
And all these changes, and I know it's a big if, but I think the if is going to come through big time. And I think all these changes are going to work out in the Seattle Seahawks' favor. So Sam Darnold, if you want to take a late, quarterback, especially if you're in a 2-quarterback league, then he's a guy that I would want on my team.
I like it. All right. So we're going to go through more quarterbacks as we go through our show, especially this offseason when we do our read option. We're going to do some quarterback read options as well, this or that's and things like that. But to see the full quarterback rankings for both Brian and Kevin, and actually mine as well, they're all on bellyupsports.com. Go check that out. It is where all the fantasy content is flowing on the website right now. And you can check out fantasy football content. DJ's throwing a few pieces up there as well. I think we got Joel's going to be putting some pieces up too. So lots of stuff going on right now on the bellyupsports.com website. We've got a major storm rolling in, and I'm afraid I'm going to lose internet as I did earlier. So we're going to wrap up the show tonight. We are over an hour, so we're going to wrap it up. But we're going to be talking about this stuff every single week, and I'll manage the time a little better in the coming weeks. We'll make sure we get to these rankings and cover them in full as well. But again, you can check them out on bellyupsports.com. Kevin, tell the fine folks where they can find you at and all your content in the coming days.
Well, there's a lot of content going on right there for me because, as you're well aware, you and I, we did a baseball show yesterday.
We did.
And so the fantasy baseball show comes out every week. Now we've got this show that comes out every week. I do a video clip of my MVPs of fantasy baseball every single week. And I take clips of the show and put them out there. All of that is on the Belly Up YouTube page. And if you go to the Belly Up website, I have an article that I posted just yesterday on the streaming pitchers that you want to have on your team. And all that you mentioned, all the rankings are all there. Tight ends, running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks. So Belly Up Sports is the place you want to go. And also on Twitter, it's Kevin62, WILSEA. And any kind of questions, I will answer. And there I am.
All right, Brian, tell everybody where they can find all your content.
So Twitter would be a big one for me, at BrianPG1016. You can find not only all my fantasy stuff there, but all the other content for the 100 other websites I write for. You can find my other show, which I do with my co-host Nate, the 3rd and 10 podcast. Look up 3rd and 10 on YouTube. It'll pop right up. We just had a show come out today, another one coming out on Thursday. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and Brian, by the way, he's well versed in hockey, lots of hockey stuff as well. So if you're into hockey,
That's right.
check out Brian's writing is different.
You can see him on the show from last night, the Super Show, which I was wanting to be a part of, but then I was on our own show.
It was been great if you've been there.
Yeah. And so hockey is something I'm really interested in, and that was a great show. So if you're into hockey, get over there and check out that Super Show.
Yeah, Belly Up Sports YouTube. You're going to find all kinds of great content on there. You'll find the 3rd and 10 podcast. You'll find my show, the Sports Stove Football Show. You'll find Kevin appearing on a couple different programs as well over there also. So make sure you check that out. If you are a big-time football fan, me and my dad do a show every Thursday, and it's the Sports Stove Football Show. Right now we're going through college conferences. We did the ACC last week. We interviewed Virginia linebacker Maddox Marcellus in that show. This week we're doing the Big 12, and we're interviewing Houston running back Rashawn Sanford as well. So it's going to be a great show again. I hope that you'll tune in for that. You can find it on the Belly Up Sports YouTube channel as well. Make sure you subscribe to the Belly Up Sports YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast, the Belly Up Fantasy Football Live podcast, so you don't miss a single episode. Myself, Brian, and Kevin will be back next week on Tuesday Night Live, and then, of course, always available afterwards wherever you get your podcasts as well. We sure appreciate you tuning in. This episode number 1 of this new season of the Belly Up Fantasy Football Live show. Until next time, have yourself a great and wonderful week.